Welcome to Leadership 101. This is our second session today. And just before we begin, we're going to take the opportunity to introduce ourselves. Some have been here before, others are new. And so those that were here last week, just give us your name and one takeaway that you remember from last week. And if you're new this week, your name, and answer this question: what does leadership look like for me in my life? That could be a little bit of a tough question. What does leadership look like for me in my life? So if you're here last week, we'll start over here left.
Whew. Bill Clausen. Trying to think. Last week I remember some of it. There was something Mel said too. I can't think off the top of my head what it is, but I did listen the whole time. Just my mind isn't. But I know. Anyways, sorry.
So how about what does leadership look like for you?
As far as what a leader looks like, or as me?
In your world, what does leadership look like for you?
Leadership, somebody that has a vision that I follow.
Okay. Good. Excellent.
Well, Caleb Flowers, and I was not here last week, but I'm honored to be here tonight. And I think I would put it this way: leadership looks like you see the reflection of leadership in those that are following. So leadership looks like the followers.
Good. Good. Man, there's a lot of thought right there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
That's good. Larry Schoonover, I was here. I can't recall a whole lot that was said, but I have thought a lot about it.
It was good.
It was good. I was edified, and I expect the same tonight.
Okay.
I can say from last week, the teaching was excellent. And leadership looks to me like somebody knows how to say what needs to be said.
Hallelujah.
My name is Marcela, and I'm in here. Oh, I wasn't here the last week, but I am in here today. Thank you, Lord. And what leadership means to me is someone that lead by the example, I think.
Good. Good. Leadership looks differently from different perspectives and backgrounds. And in this 6-week course, we're talking about Leadership 101, which is the simple aspects of leadership, thinking like a leader. Last week we talked about leaders lead, and leadership is influence. You can't have influence if you don't connect with people and or have some type of personal skills, and that is a whole topic right there. So today we have Mel Berglund who's going to be our instructor. And if you want to just share just a little bit about yourself, and then he has some lesson here today on leadership. Mel, come on.
Okay, I'm certainly glad to be here, and I've been in positions of management where I didn't always feel like the leader. I've been in positions of leadership where I had no authority. And that can happen.
Yeah.
That can absolutely happen. And well, so much about me. The topic, and you mentioned influencing, and that's very much a part of what I want to say here. We start out with leading and influencing in our changing world dynamics today. We're here to learn maybe if we want to be leaders, as opposed to how to be leaders. Not everybody can be or should be a leader.
Right.
I'm originally from northern Minnesota. We have a lot of Native American tribes there, and one of the sayings that they have is, too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
Yeah.
And everybody can't be the chief.
Yeah.
Somebody has to follow. And I will say it really simply, if you can't be a follower, you shouldn't be a leader. You shouldn't.
Yeah.
You know, because you're going to find that the leadership skills that you need very much are developed in how you have followed,
Right.
and what you've been able to get and take away from others. This is a mouthful. We're going to read it and then we'll look at this later on as we go. Maintaining leadership and influence in today's shifting global landscape requires adaptability, a strong sense of purpose, commitment to being the channel that converts soulless information into relevant communication. I want to stop there for just a minute. Leadership is more than just giving out information. And the information that is coming at us in today's technical society is coming at us like big pipelines.
Yeah.
Too much information, as a matter of fact. And so if a person thinks, well, leadership is just getting this information to you and somehow think that you're going to know what to do with it, that's not leadership at all. It has to become relevant communication. The world is evolving rapidly. Technology is reshaping industries, information gathering methods, and social interaction. We did an experiment in our country a couple years back of working from home. And they found out that people loved it because there was no leadership. You take the leader out of a team and you don't have a winning team, but you're going to have a lot of people having fun. They'll be out there playing the sport, but they're not winning the game. And there has to be hands-on leadership. There has to be. And so effective leaders in this era must embrace all the change around us. We can't reach a point of saturation and say, I can't handle any more details. I can't handle any more technology. I can't handle any more change. I'm going to go back to what I'm comfortable with, and the world's going to pass you by. And your team is going to pass you by, or your team is going to fail so much it'll be dissolved. We have to embrace the change while we improve our human skill. We have to get better at what humans do. It's as simple as that. And if we don't have the human aspect that is improving with the technical aspect that is increasing, we're going to become really unbalanced. And that's the picture I showed earlier. We have to maintain a balance, and we have to get good at this so that we're converting all the newly available information and technology into actionable data via strong communication and, this is key, storytelling skills. We have to be communicators. When I was asked, what is a leader? Someone that knows what to say. And I wasn't kidding. You have to have the right words at the right time, saying it to the right people. We were asked, what is leadership? I'm not going to make you answer that question again. But the best way for me to sometimes determine what something is compare it with something it isn't. Leadership is not management. Management can be leaders. Leaders don't have to be managers. And so don't confuse the two. Don't equate one with the other. Both emphasize aspects of guiding and influencing people or organizations. They each work toward the same goal, but they take a different track. Management is typically task-oriented. It focuses on planning, organizing, coordinating resources, time, budget, personnel, to accomplish specific objectives. I've been in management roles most of my life. And some managers, the people that work with them will consider them walking clipboards. Nothing more than walking clipboards, checklists. Managers excel at creating structure ensuring efficiency, maintaining control over processes to meet organizational goals. Now, I aspire to be a leader, and I will confess I'm a fairly successful manager. I've received awards at Microsoft for my management skills. Never got anything for my leadership ability. I don't know that they hand out awards for that, and you know why?
Yeah.
It's difficult to measure.
Yeah.
Very difficult to measure. Typically, your boss won't know it, but your team will. And they're not handing out awards, they're wanting awards. Leadership is the ability to inspire, to motivate, and to influence individuals or groups to achieve a shared vision or goal. It's a soft skill.
Yeah.
It's inspirational. And you have to be able, as it was said, influence people. Leaders often focus on the bigger picture, fostering innovation, nurturing a sense of purpose among their team. Growing up in Minnesota, when I was a young kid, we didn't have a professional football team in Minnesota until the Vikings came along, and so we rooted for the
Green Bay Packers.
Thank you. Okay, you passed the first question of this class. And the coach, the immoral coach of the Green Bay Packers during the 1960s was a guy by the name of Vince Lombardi. And he was a motivator. And the team would come into the club room during halftime, and he wouldn't beat them, he wouldn't criticize them, he wouldn't tell them what to do, he would tell them stories. He would motivate them. He was a motivator. Leading from the front. This is what most people think of when they talk about leadership. I'm walking, you're following. And therefore, I'm setting the direction. Okay? But there's also leading from behind. And there, I'm validating results. They're going in the right direction. Now, as a leader, I have to realize that I need to be able to do both of those, but I need to know when and for whom. If I'm leading someone that has comparable skills as me, or possibly even greater skills than me, and I try to lead them from the front, telling them what to do, they're going to resent that.
Sure.
It doesn't matter how good I am at what I do, they are going to resent my leadership. And so I have to get behind them. And I don't push them. We're not talking about, leading by pushing. We're talking about leading by monitoring, trusting them.
Yeah.
It's at that point that we start talking about leadership and delegation, where it's like, we had this conversation, and now you take it, and I'm behind you. I'm supporting you. And I've got, I've had so many times people would say, you have my back. Well, that's true. I'm your leader, but I'm behind you.
Yeah.
I trust you to go and walk in the front. And then there's cheerleading. That's simply a lot of noise.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, we can do this.
Yeah.
You can do it, man. You got it. Got what? Well, I don't know what I'm talking about. I was hoping you did. But you can do it, whatever it is. Cheerleading ultimately only aggravates people.
Yeah.
And after a while, you're like, why are they even here? I don't need that. Developing into a leader. This is what we're here for. How to develop these soft skills and become a better leader. Well, this is that picture again. We're going to start out looking at technical skills. Why would we even be concerned about technical skills? Well, because leadership ultimately is about information.
Yeah.
Now, back in the olden days, and if I had my way, this is the way I would get my information. I would sit down in a library, and I would take my leisure time, and I would research. And if I didn't find it in that book, that's okay. I'll be back tomorrow. I remember, and it wasn't that long ago, when I started working at Microsoft, I was hired for a role that I didn't even know what it was. And I would go to Barnes & Noble, Brandon, my 31-year-old son, he was just a little baby, and my wife Susanna would sit with him in the children's area, and I would take a book off the shelf. I wonder what this is all about. It's in the technical section. And I would sit there and I would read it. Every night I went back to Barnes & Noble and read and read and read. And I was self-trained in computers because I didn't have the opportunity to go to college for that.
Sure.
I wasn't looking to become a leader at Microsoft. I was looking to keep my job.
Right.
Okay, but in doing so, I gathered information, and luckily I had time to do that. We live in a different world now. I wouldn't survive now. I'll just be honest with you. Now we're talking 25 years later. Good luck, Mel.
Yeah.
Okay, and so this library is where we got our information, and that's where we still get our information, believe it or not.
Sure.
And the computer is where we store information. And we take information from the books, from the training, from the learning, and we put it into a format that we can then access for what we need. We call these files. I create these files, and I know where they are, and I have them cataloged, and I can go find information. All of this has to do with access. A leader must have access to information.
Yes.
If you're not interested in this, then don't aspire to leadership. You have to know about the direction you're sending people. If somebody comes to you and they say, I've got a technical problem here, or if they come to you and they say, I have a mechanical problem here, or if they come to you and they say, I've got this issue with these animals that we're caring for, whatever line of work you're in, you better give them the right answer. They expect that. That's minimal. Or if you give them the wrong answer, the animal dies, the project fails, the car blows up, you're not going to be their leader anymore. And so access and the ability to get the information that you've gleaned over a lifetime,
Yes.
that's important. But we're living now in a different world, and it's where our computers, our machines are now able to analyze, interpret, and generate insights quickly. Now I'm going to give a little example of this at the end of my little talk here. All of those books, it's still books, it's still information, they're read by computers. They create large language models, and that information goes into the funnel and it's processed. It's books, it's computers, and it's artificial intelligence.
Yes.
And a person has to, in our world today, embrace this. It's been around now. A lot of people say, well, this just happened a couple months ago. No, it's been around for several years. We're just hearing more about it now. But we have to embrace this as a means to help us with our job, because we're expected, everyone's expected, work smarter, work faster.
Yeah.
You have to produce a lot more in a lot less time. My wife is from Indonesia. In that country years ago, in the villages, they had a concept, they called it in the Indonesian language, gotong royong, which means shared labor. And they're going to put a road through town. And the contractor comes and he's got a bulldozer and he's got some dump trucks, he's got heavy equipment. The villagers come out and they say, no, we don't want that in our village. We have shovels. And they would allow the villagers to make the road with the shovels so that everybody got a paycheck.
Wow.
Everybody had work, and the equipment would sit idle. Now that's nice in a village on an island in the Pacific. It's not going to work on your job.
No.
It's not going to work in your home. It's not going to work on your project unless it's a hobby. Okay? Intelligence is defined as the ability to acquire. We talked about getting the knowledge
Yes.
and apply knowledge. The ability to acquire it, whether you're getting it from books, your computer, artificial intelligence, it doesn't matter how you're getting it. And you've got to be able to apply it into some unknown thing, which could be described as wisdom. I know what to do. I know the answer to the question. I know what they're looking for. I know the path that we're supposed to take. I don't have to be the smartest person, but if I'm going to be a leader in any area, I have to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Sure.
And because we're living in a society that's moving so fast, they want you to know now. And if you say, well, I don't know, they'll say, well, that's fine. You'll be back in a couple hours with the answer. And the technology is there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We looked at this earlier. I want to just look at one little piece here. Effective leaders in this era must embrace this change while improving their human skills. So much for the technology. This is an example of the leadership failure of the future. A guy with the schedule, the list of all this stuff that he's been able to gather, and he's going around and he's making sure everybody's getting it right. That is the leadership failure of the future. It isn't going to work. A poor communicator with a list and a schedule. That's not leadership at all. That is not leadership. And so we've looked at the technical skills, and so you have the technical skills, you've got all this information, you've got your list, you've got your data, and you're going to go around and you're going to be spewing all this knowledge, and no one's going to be following you. We've got to go to the other side of the scale where we balance with storytelling skills. You say, storytelling skills like Mary Had a Little Lamb? I mean, do I go into somebody's office and tell them, silly things, or what are we talking about? Well, let me help you here. A recent survey found ineffective communication cost U.S. businesses an estimate $12,500 per employee per year. Wow. That means that I'm costing my company, my team, my family, my whatever I want to lead. I'm costing them money because I don't communicate well. And we've all run into this in the home, where you talk to your family and everybody knows that what you're supposed to be doing, and then it comes time to do it. Nobody understood it right, and it's like, well, how did we miss this? I mean, how something so simple? I thought we were going to do this. I thought we were going to go there. I thought we had this plan, and nobody's in agreement. Who's in charge? Well, the reality is maybe there is no leader there. Now, Daddy thinks he's the leader, but Daddy may not be the leader at all. And this happens on the job. This happens in organizations. It happens everywhere, where poor communication is the cause of failure for everything. On the flip side,
can I ask you a question right here?
we do not communicate in this class.
Oh, So
Don't question me. What a perfect segue. Absolutely.
it's interesting. You're using this term about storytelling. I'm seeing more and more YouTube videos teaching people how to become better storytellers,
Absolutely.
where it involves leadership.
Absolutely.
Now, I've told a lot of stories. I've learned to tell stories in my communicating,
Yeah.
but I've also realized that there are times when I'm telling the stories that some people aren't able to slow down their thinking process to hear the entire story. In other words, they leap ahead
Yeah.
as you're barely halfway into the story. They're leaping ahead and
Cut to the
making their own.
chase.
They cut into the chase. They're making their own judgment calls, but they end up missing the point.
yeah.
Is that a reality, or is it just me?
That's their problem, but it becomes your problem.
Yes, it does,
It absolutely does.
and I
yeah.
feel like it's my problem.
Um,
Okay, just wanted to get that out.
that's absolutely correct. And believe it or not, I wasn't the one who invented the term storytelling
Sure.
for business and leadership today.
Yeah.
This is becoming very, very more common, and the realization is it's important.
Yes.
So strong communication has been shown to improve productivity, morale, employee and customer satisfaction. communication skills are so vital.
Yes, sir.
This is from Harvard Business Review. It talks about 5 types of stories leaders need to tell.
Interesting.
Now, I'm not going to give you that. That's not the point.
Okay.
But I want you to see how important this is that Harvard
Harvard.
Business Review is addressing this. You've got to be
Good point.
able to say what you want to say in a story rather than just a fact. And
Yes.
I could give an example. We've got time, right? So when I was
So storytelling is examples or illustrations?
it's a way of encapsulating information in a means that is readily retrieved,
Okay.
if I can put it that way.
Okay.
Okay, and so don't tell a story, just tell a story.
Right.
Don't tell a story just for filler. Don't go into a busy man's office
No.
and say, "Hey, I got to talk to you about my fishing trip."
No.
That's not storytelling. That's time wasting.
Okay.
Okay, so that's not storytelling. But I give an example.
Mhm.
When I was managing teams at Microsoft for software development, often I would have to work with developers, analysts, people that face the business.
Mhm.
I'd have to work with those that are setting up the server banks,
Yeah.
and I would have to work with software testers. And when I would get a group of software testers, I wanted them to understand a little story. And so I would bring them in my office and I say, I want to teach you about software testing. Now, these are technical people.
Yeah.
They understand technology. And I would draw for them, and give me a pen, I'll draw on this. I would draw for them a child's game. And it's one of those games, it's a blank piece of paper with a path where you try to start here and go to there, but there's all sorts of paths you don't want to take.
Yeah.
There's only one path that's going to take you from A to Z.
Yeah.
And I would draw that out and I would say, this is the goal. I want you to test this application with that path in mind. I want you to know what is the path that a user is going to take when they're using this software. They're going to open it. They're going to drop down the menu that says new. They're going to get their cursor and select it to a certain point. This is the path of normal use. I said, I want you to test that. Now you can go off in odd directions and you can test a path that's not going anywhere. And you can find a bug. You can say, did you know that if you hold down the Shift Alt 7 key and then you start typing B-O-B-O, eventually your computer will crash?
What?
You know, and I would say, don't do that.
You went down the wrong
We're
trail.
not going to fix that.
Ah,
It's a bug, but it's not on the path.
gotcha.
And so don't waste our time. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Do not waste the developer's time.
Yeah.
Don't waste triage time coming to us saying, I found these really interesting bugs.
Oh,
We're not going to fix them, and you wasted 2 days of our time
yeah.
with that useless bit of information. Then, when I would go to them weeks later, I go in their office and I say, show me what you're doing. And they'd show me what they were doing. And I say, remember the story of the path. And they go, oh yeah, you're right.
No.
That's the purpose of a story.
Yeah.
Because now I can pull back all that information, all that training, with just a simple statement, remember the path. Okay, so there's value in storytelling. It's communication.
Yeah.
And so when we look at storytelling, things here, creative, content, history, experience, marketing, communication, emotion, sharing, all of this goes into storytelling and making sure your story adds value.
Value.
This is from Forbes under the heading of leadership. How to boost storytelling skills. 16 tips from communication pros. And I've highlighted this. Communication professionals are storytellers at heart. Communication professionals. Leadership is being a communication professional. And you tell stories. When I was a kid, my parents used to accuse me of telling stories, and that was not a good thing. The way to master this storytelling ability is practice. And if a person will not talk in a group, do not aspire to leadership. If a person is shy and afraid to say something, now, my family sometimes wishes, it's like, Dad's gonna be there. They're like, don't embarrass us. Yeah, I admit, that sometimes my family is terrified. That I'm going to say something, or I'm going to communicate something, or I'm going to, and this is all a part of it sometimes, ask
a
the
question.
Stupid question. But you've got to.
Yeah.
You absolutely got to. And sometimes you do it to prime the pump. Because if somebody's not going to say something, why are we even here? And so the person that starts to speak up is practicing their leadership growth. And it's not always easy, especially when you're the new person on the team. And you know that as soon as you say something, someone's going to start questioning you. And that's as far as I go on this one. Leadership, success of the storytellers. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, strongly valued face-to-face interaction. There's a temptation in our network age, he says, to think that ideas can be developed by email or iChat. He told his biographer, Walter Isaacson, that's crazy, he said. You cannot do these things except face-to-face. There's something about human interaction, according to Steve Jobs, and I guess he should know something. Creativity comes from spontaneous meetings, from random discussions. You run into someone and you ask, what are you doing? And you say, wow. And soon you're cooking up all sorts of ideas. Job's vision, innovation, high standards drove groundbreaking success. He loved to tell stories. He would tell stories about how he was adopted and how that his parents told him as a young man that they were afraid to love him. That's kind of weird growing up with, because they were afraid he was going to be taken from them. They had lost several foster children. And so he didn't have strong, nurturing feelings. As a young man, he got involved in the drug culture and the whole culture that most of us grew up in. And he went to India. While he was in India, he shaved his head, found himself a guru, and he did the Om thing. And that stayed with him all of his life. When he got back to the United States, he was looking for a place where he could commune. And he joined a commune. And while he was there, it was an apple orchard just outside of Portland, Oregon. And while he was there, he started to think about business ideas. Hence, the apple. Came from Portland, Oregon, from a guy that took a little too much LSD and sunshine in India. But all of his life, the man was a dreamer, a visionary, and it was his ability to take that and get someone in the hallway to say, wow. And they would interact, and they would banter back and forth, and they would come up with multi-billion-dollar ideas. This is Steve Jobs. Scholars consider Lincoln to be America's greatest storytelling leader. Now, talking to my dad when I was growing up, he would have said it was Bill Clinton. But I think it was Abraham Lincoln. My dad used to say, we would get into arguments about politics, and he'd say, well, Bill Clinton, he's probably not a real good politician, but the guy's a storyteller. He says, he's the kind of guy that I would like to meet in a bar. He'll keep us interested all night long. And that was Bill Clinton. Well, Abraham Lincoln, he's not known necessarily for the Civil War. He's not known necessarily for the Gettysburg Address, even though 7 years ago. We know that man's great ability to communicate. When he was out campaigning, he would tell stories. Obviously, Ronald Reagan was good at that also. Some of his stuff is still out there on social media. And he keeps us interested with his storytelling ability. Abraham Lincoln was once asked somebody, why are you running? Why is he running? He's obviously running for president, right? Why are you running? Abraham Lincoln from the podium says, that reminds me of once I was getting chased by a bull. And he says, I was running. And I turned around and I looked that bull straight in the eye and I said, stop chasing me. I'm running for my life, but you're just running for the fun of it. And he says, and the man I'm competing against is just running for the fun of it.
Oh, wow.
I'm running for my life.
Yeah.
I'm serious about this. And a joke got him elected.
Wow.
Because the man was able to communicate and reach people at a certain level
Sure.
that they could identify with. He could give them numbers, he could give them facts, he could argue. That doesn't work.
No.
He had different areas in his life. First, he was born into a unique era, and he talked about it. Everybody knows about him and his log cabin birth. Well, where did that come from? It came from him. Was he really born in a log cabin? Did George Washington really chop down a cherry tree? It's a story.
It's a story.
It's a story that's alive 250 years later.
Yeah.
Okay. He developed a burning passion for speaking. He became a lawyer for the railroad. He wanted to talk rather than lift heavy things.
Yeah.
I reached that point in my life after 10 years as a sheet metal man.
Sure.
I looked around the shop one day and I didn't see any old men. And I thought, I have to do something different. I enjoyed being a sheet metal man. I enjoyed lifting heavy things. But I reached a point where it's like, I think I'm going to work with my mouth,
Yeah.
not with my arms.
Sure.
And I became an educator.
Yeah.
He began early and he practiced a lot. And as I was saying earlier, if you want to be a leader and you can't talk, find something else. And he gladly received feedback. He could handle criticism and take it lightly. He could be joked at. He was once confronted by a woman. He was going through town on a horse. And the woman said, "You, sir, are ugly." He said, "I'm sorry, ma'am, there's nothing I can do about it." She said, "Well, you could at least stay home." And he would tell that joke. And he would make fun of the way he looked.
Yeah.
And so he turned something that could have been a detriment into an asset by allowing people to laugh at him and laugh with him.
Sure.
And they went away, that man's good natured.
Yeah.
So his story was telling something good about himself. This is storytelling ability.
Right.
Jesus was the master teacher.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. He loved to tell stories, all kinds of stories, depending on the audience. Over a third of his recorded teachings are in parables and extended metaphors. Last night, as I was starting to get that tired feeling coming over me, I saw a guy by the name of Dave Berg. This was 13 hours ago. That was 13 hours ago from some other time, not now. And he was asking for feedback concerning the Browns Point Town Center. I live in Dash Point, Browns Point area. And he said, "I have a buyer that really wants to do something cool for the community and make this something special. Something that people will truly love, but also something that can make the business profitable and thrive. We must find a balance because it cannot be just a money pit. It has to offer the buyer some type of return on their investment. This is the buyer you want for the community. What would you support? Get creative and let us know what you really love to see here that would make business sense at the same time." And what he's talking about is this particular facility where I live. It was owned by a man who was local to the community. He sold it a number of years to a consortium that had it for a while, and they went bankrupt. And now it's on the market again. Anybody here want to buy that? I just told you a story. He went bankrupt. That's a story.
Yeah.
But that's not the story we wanted to tell. Okay? And so Dave Berg was reaching out. Who can give us some insight on this. And so I went to bed. And when I used to work at Microsoft, I would go to bed sometimes with problems, just horrible technical team problems. And it's like, man, I don't know what to do. And I learned I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to let my brain work.
Yeah.
And my brain would work, and I would kind of go into a state of almost, it's kind of like quiet insanity. I don't know how else to describe it. If my brain is going like crazy and I'm slipping away, and finally I would fall asleep, and I would wake up with the answer. And it's like, how is that my brain processed, even though there was nothing on the screen? Because the computer's working in the background.
Yeah.
I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, and I had the answer for this. And I'm laying there in bed at 4 o'clock this morning, and all these thoughts are just boo, 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 boo. Different people had answered him with just the wrong kind of answers. I don't know what else to say, you know? And so I went down into my office, I opened up AI, and I started to talk. And I told AI, there's this business center in a small community. It's an isolated community, 15 to 20 minutes away from any other business area. We want to keep it alive, but nobody's gonna come here to go to a hardware store. They're gonna go to Lowe's. Nobody's gonna come here to go to a restaurant, but they've got all the restaurants they want in the big community. Nobody's gonna come here for anything, and we've proven that now through 2 owners. What can we do so that this person who has the money will buy this business place? And after I talked to AI, I said, those are my dreams, that's my thoughts. Put it into a format that I can give to Dave Berg. And it spit out this information. A thriving modern community hub designed to connect people, businesses, essential services while fostering accessibility, sustainability, and innovation. Now these are things I told him, but I didn't say it like this. It has to be a mixed use facility. And I'm not going to go through all of this. It has to have an independent business model. The owner cannot be in charge of all the little shops. Okay, the key, I even spelled key wrong. The key concept, integration into the life at the points, must be a community hub that meets our real needs rather than random attempts at small businesses to squeak out a living in an isolated location by attracting customers from out of town. That ain't gonna work. It has to be our community needs. And so I began addressing what are the needs in our community. Well, first of all, our children. There's some major issues with our kids. There's a school nearby. Most of our parents work. When they have to pick up their kids, somebody's got to leave the job. There's no short-term daycare. And my son and my daughter-in-law, they're teachers. And they're always being asked, will you tutor? We are paying thousands of dollars for our child to be in this school, and they're failing. And all they need is a couple more hours one-on-one with a teacher. Will we be willing to pay you good money? Will you tutor? A daycare that provides tutor. That's a business model for someone in this little place. So we went through a grocery store, restaurant, professional financial services, but all of it geared toward the community. There's a grocery store there, but nobody shops there. But this building, this area has been zoned for senior housing. 140 senior apartments can be put on that spot, as well as mixed-use business. Well, we don't necessarily need 140, but maybe 50, where they would tie that in with the restaurant, where the restaurant would have a contract with that to provide the food. And the people can order from the restaurant, it will be delivered to them, and it will be on a non-cash basis. It'll just be a part of their bill. You had lunch, okay, boom, it's on the bill. You had breakfast 3 days, boom, it's on the bill. And that restaurant will be busy around the clock, providing the needs for those 40 residents. And they don't have to worry if they don't want to cook, if they don't want to go out, just order the food. We don't even have to take out the credit card. Most of the people that live in our community are elderly. They all live in homes that are easily valued at $1 million. They're going to sell those homes. They're going to have $1 million to live on for the rest of their life, they'll do fine. They're not gonna be worried about the money.
Right.
And so there needs to be financial services, professional services. There needs to be a real estate office in this here
Yeah.
so that it can help facilitate those that wanna sell their home to get transferred over into this. The realtor doesn't need to be there all the time, but he has to have a presence.
Yeah.
Things like this, school connection, we already discussed that. The
Yeah.
youth daycare, multi-purpose learning, senior community center. There's a church right next door that is so out of business, they don't even have a pastor anymore.
Yeah.
That could be turned into a senior center and
Right.
still be a church on Sunday.
Yeah.
Now the seniors can leave their apartments, go to the senior center, get together, play the games, listen to the music, do what they want to do, and they're all right there. There needs to be some kind of a health care. We have no health care in our communities, nothing. Now, we don't need a hospital, we don't even need a emergency clinic, but we need a healthcare presence where people can go in and they can skin knee, could you check my heart, this
Yeah.
sort of stuff. That would provide regular service for the elderly residents, so it's always there for them, tied in with the hospital.
Yeah.
So that if the need is real, then they would get them to the hospital. Any time spent in the clinic would be taken against waiting room time, and they would have first access to the doctor. That would work.
You
Absolutely, that would
explain
work. And so I went through this with Dave. We even talked about, we have a park.
Yeah.
And we could easily access the park from this facility and have it for golf carts. Autonomous golf carts that don't even have to worry about traffic on the streets.
Right.
You're down at the park, there's 5 golf carts there. You get in one and it'll take you back up there. You want to go down to the park, there's 5 golf carts there. You get in the cart, it'll take you to the park. It's not going to take you anywhere else because it's only programmed to go one place or another. I'd like to own those golf carts.
There
But
you
not
go.
only that, someday there's going to be autonomous vehicles.
Sure.
Then the elderly people there don't even need a car.
Yeah.
They want to go to QFC, they get in the car, go to QFC. They want to go here, get in the car. And then all that gets billed at the end of the month because it keeps track of who's in, where they went. They don't even have to carry cash. So I went over this with Dave.
Yeah.
6 o'clock this morning, he's responding to me. And his response is, here's what we had because they want to know if it will make financial sense. And his response, I love this. He said, I was using ChatGPT Pro with deep research for a proposal as well. I'm going to take this and plug it in.
Wow.
Now, the point I'm trying to get at,
Yeah.
it's not my project.
Nope.
I have no authority.
Mm-hmm.
I have no skin in the game, but I'm leading.
Mm-hmm.
How's that even possible? Technical skills?
Technical skills.
Technical skills gave this to me in a half hour.
Yeah.
And the ability to tell a story.
And learning to ask the right questions.
Absolutely. And I'm done.
Oh, no, we got some questions.
Okay. Now we get into the cash part. $5, who'll give me 10?
Hey, I wanted to add just one thing. I know that you made the comment several times. If you cannot talk, don't aspire for leadership.
Learn to talk is my point.
Learn to talk, because I went through that in my early 20s. I lived inside, I did not come out, and I knew that was gonna trap me from getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And then as you've heard me say, I just started going to a restaurant, sitting up at the counter, ordering coffee, and gonna ask questions to the guy sitting two chairs down.
Absolutely.
That's how I broke through that,
Yeah.
and I absolutely broke through it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So there's hope. You
There-
can come out. You can come out.
Anybody can learn to talk, but you have to talk.
Yes. Yes, you do.
You can't, you gotta get past your shyness. So it's the knowledge, the technical base you gotta have,
Mm-hmm.
and you can get it quickly.
Yes.
Because again, I'll say it, if I had gone to the library and researched all of this out and got it to him 3 months from now,
Yeah.
there's no value.
Nobody.
He wanted something that morning.
Yep.
I gave it to him.
Great story.
Yeah, you caught it, brother. It's a story. It's all a story.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Yes. about your Barnes and Noble days especially, but then really in general, when you're reading for a purpose, like in that example, the purpose was to learn about your job description, job
Exactly.
expectations. When you're reading, do you also make notes? And if so, how, or maybe how frequently?
Years ago, I used to mark books. Again, now I tell a story, and that's just the way it is. I'm currently designing an office in my new home, and I am putting in enough bookshelves for 4,000 books. If you think for 1 minute that I can remember what book, what page, I underline that thought,
Right.
it doesn't work for me anymore. Okay, it worked for me when I was a young man and I had 10 books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have hundreds and hundreds of files cataloged on my computer. As Kamala Harris would say, somewhere in the cloud. It's a cloud. No, it's on a server farm somewhere.
Yes. Quincy.
Yeah, in Quincy, absolutely. So yeah, so I used to take notes in Word. I take notes in PowerPoint. Now, my daughter takes notes and she does it in Notes.
Uh-huh.
You know, that doesn't, for some reason, it doesn't work for me. And PowerPoint works for me. And if I want to build on it, and then you wonder, well, why has he got these PowerPoints? Because that's my go-to note-taking tool. And then I just, when I'm studying something, I'm building up a PowerPoint deck, and I may never do anything with it, but I label it and I stick it in a dated area and then also in a subject area. So I've got all my stuff dated by year, in there dated by month, but also I can gather it by subject. And
So
most of the stuff I've learned, I've lost. I don't care.
when a thought is prompted to you while you're reading, you stop reading and go into PowerPoint.
I'm almost
Type
always
this
on
up.
PowerPoint.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that becomes, that's a habit that you almost have to have.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's like if you were, you know, scuba diving for pearls, and then you find a pearl, but you don't have your pearl bag.
Mm-hmm.
That's a story.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? If you've got to keep running to get some way to capture that information, you're not going to capture it. Your mind is not even going to be working.
Mm-hmm.
You're just scuba diving. You're not even looking for pearls anymore.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the way I do it. It just, it gets a slide. You know, just type it in, or I'll take a picture of it and just stick a picture of it if it's a whole page.
Gotcha.
And whatever I got to do, I just want to capture it. And then there are times when I'm going back and I've researched something that's like, man, I read something about that, you know, 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I can find it very quickly.
Interesting. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing
But-
that.
But again, in whether it's AI or reading books, we're always running across valuable stuff. Things that it's like you'd never think that you could use it in your line of work, but you can. You absolutely can. Bill, you're one of the most important people in my life right now. What are your thoughts? I mean, you're my leader. You're leading me through a construction project. I trust you, man.
Yeah, I mean, go to your point, I mean, I read a lot, but I have little notebooks and a little paper, and I just write them on there, stack them up, take pictures, throw them in Dropbox, and have them sit there and go back and look at it.
Yeah.
So, you know, or I text stuff to me myself, but,
Right.
yeah, I mean, this is good, I mean, you know, I mean, I lead, but, you know, most of my work is management, because I'm just information, but,
But I got a feeling they respect you,
oh, yeah,
and they looked at you as a leader.
yeah,
They trust you.
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
That's beyond management.
Yeah, no, I do get that. a
Yeah.
lot.
We talked a lot about storytelling. What are some attributes or characteristics of a storyteller?
A storyteller, if he's really good, is also a good joke teller. Okay, you've got to keep it together. You know, have you ever told a joke and then you mess up the punchline? You know, it's like, you know, the punchline is so important, and often it is the way the words are sequenced. you know, and so it's like, if you mess that up, the story, nobody's gonna laugh and nobody's gonna remember the story. And so the ability of a storyteller, I think, is to be able to put things together in an orderly fashion that takes somebody somewhere,
Yeah.
and leaves them with, I'm gonna keep that. You know, I've told a lot of stories that I don't even remember.
I've discovered a fault. I will not finish the story.
You don't tell the punchline to the joke.
Well, it leads me to somewhere that sends me into somewhere else, and then my kids later will say, Dad, you didn't finish the story, because they knew the story.
Ah.
And it's like, I didn't.
So one of the, you mentioned in leadership understands the bigger picture.
Totally.
So in telling a story, you don't get lost in the story. You understand there's a bigger picture. This is just part of it. The whole path is not the story.
Exactly.
It's the bigger picture of what you're endeavoring to communicate.
And it kind of goes back to the story I told about software development.
Mm-hmm.
In software development, you're trying to get someone from A to B or A to Z, and you're trying to stay on the path.
Yeah.
And storytellers have to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
You got to stay on the path.
Yeah.
You know, and you need to know where you're going with that. And there's a reason for the story, because it's going to lead them. Like when Jesus told the story, it left them with a nugget of wisdom.
Right.
He didn't just tell stories, just to say, "Oh, let me tell you about a guy that was shining his shoes."
Yeah.
Even though I used to teach a Bible study about shining your shoes.
Oh.
Anybody want to hear? There's a verse in Scripture. It says, "Anoint the shield." And when I first saw that, I thought, anoint the shield? And I found out that the Israelis during that time period made their shield out of leather. And if they didn't anoint it, it would become dry and brittle. And they had to keep it pliable like a surface of a drum, so that when somebody hit it, it gave a nice boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And it stayed intact. And so they had to anoint their shield. And I use that as an example of taking better care of your shoes. I said, why do we polish our shoes? So they last longer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to take that to where we have to anoint our faith, so that it's pliable.
Right.
And so that it's not brittle, and it doesn't fail every time something comes along to question it.
Yes, sir.
And that's the value of anointing. It's not just to talk loud.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so
Yes.
I don't even remember why I was telling you that story.
Any other questions?
But it was
or comments?
enjoyable.
Yeah.
Great lesson. Thank you.
This series is Leadership 101. And just to encapsulate just for a moment, we talk about storytelling.
Yeah.
And you can't tell a story until you start. It's true. And so in Leadership 101, the easiest thing to do in whatever in your world is to do nothing. But if you're not satisfied with that, you have to do something. So you start wherever you are at, and you begin to step out of the comfort zone, and you're going to make mistakes. When I was living in Germany, going to school, a story, I went to Christmas. I went to northern Germany and stayed with a German family, and they had a young child, and then there was a teenage girl, and she helped me learn my German numbers, and she would make fun of me, and it would irritate the daylights out of me, because they would laugh. It's just the culture when you make a mistake, and it would irritate me. But listen, I know my German numbers very, very well.
Prove it.
Germany is quite a guttural. But the object here is, it was difficult. You have to, of course, learning a language like leadership, you're going to make mistakes. But the idea is we keep going. I wanted to learn these numbers, and she was willing to help me. And so even though I made mistakes and she would laugh at me and it would annoy me, I wanted to learn, so I kept on going. In leadership, whatever world we are in, however that looks for you, you've got to continue to be willing to fail, willing to have someone laugh at you in order for you to grow in becoming that expertise in storytelling like Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan. Next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, we'll gather again for Leadership 101.